Hello. Yay. Good morning. We're going to get started. How? Oh, okay. So I just wanted to, I think everybody's gotten food. We, in our budget meeting, we're talking about ways to slash the gap a little bit. And so I've been trying to order some different options. Central Market was way cheaper than a lot of our other normal things. And then we're gonna try to ask for $10 instead of $8, but I just want y'all to hear, pay what you can, and I don't feel like kids should be $10, pay, whatever you think your kids ate, just pay that. But we are gonna, as a baseline, I think we are gonna start doing 10-ish for lunches, and that's just because we were eating about $300 every lunch for all of our covenant member meetings. It was costing us about $300, so we're just trying to decrease that a little bit. So just wanted to orient on that. And yeah, so this morning, we're gonna have, let me see. Yeah, just make sure to scan the QR code or Venmo Box Meunier for lunch. We're gonna have a welcome. That's me and Christopher. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to find the agenda. Where did I put it? Do you have the agenda pulled up? Oh, perfect. Okay, oh, there it is. Okay, Brandon's going to talk about our liturgy survey a little bit. We're going to have a finance update and our budget proposal, which is the bulk of this meeting. And then vote on the budget. And then we're going to have a little just looking ahead, what we're excited about, and then a little closing. So that's what we're looking at. Should be pretty straightforward for our yearly meeting. And with that, Christopher Mack.
I believe it actually was Caroline that when we were talking about this meeting mentioned just kind of that, hey, I don't think there have been too many summers in the history of Vox where we've had 3 covenant member meetings, May, July, and now August. So thank you. You are the ones who have endured. You have made through steadfastly. I think just that in general would be a lot. And then we're obviously aware that the May meeting and the July meeting, we've experienced a lot of stress, a lot of challenge, a lot of tension. I was talking with one of you after the July meeting and mentioning essentially initially the thought of being like, hey, we need to be more like what we see the Christian community in the Bible being, and then one of you reached back out to me that said that to say earlier, actually, and then it hit me we actually are, because when you read the New Testament, all of these letters that Paul's writing are the church is on fire, what are we gonna do? Nobody can agree, everybody's angry. And Paul's just trying to say hey, look at the life and death and resurrection of Jesus, and can you have this mind in you that was in Christ Jesus? And as far as it depends on you, live at peace with every person. And those are things we want to keep looking towards and keep doing, but we just wanted to also acknowledge as we start out this meeting that it's been a lot. And we do think that we are growing and moving and learning lessons, but it still has been a lot and may still at times still continue to feel like a lot. But we wanted to, am I in charge of citing the slides? Is that what this thing does? We wanted, and I believe Brandon found this, Wendell-Berry, if ever you can quote Wendell-Berry, do. And I'm kind of sad that Brandon landed on this poem only because before he did, Brandon was my personal curator of amazing poems, and for 48 hours was just sending me some of the best poetry, what about this one? What about this one? And I kind of wanted it to continue, but then once he found this great one, he stopped sending it. But I want to invite us into this. I'm going to read it through a couple of times, read it through intentionally, and I want this to kind of set the intent and intention for us during this time. So this is The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars, waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. I want to read that one more time, and then we will continue on with our meeting. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars, waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. I hope this can set the intention for us as we navigate living in tension and are attentive to these grace that is all around us and invites us to awaken to it. Brandon, will you now tell us what is up with the survey so far?
I sure will, Christopher. So I made this graph. I could not for the life of me figure out how to actually make a graph, and it was really making me mad, but I wanted one in this presentation. So as you can see, the blue, for the most part, is a little bit less than the green, but then towards the bottom there is a lot more blue than the green. So, thank you. I feel so nice. So we've had a survey being passed around, and I think 18 or 19 people have taken it so far. You're welcome to continue. If you haven't taken it, please, by all means. I'm just going to kind of go through some things that we found. I don't know what your thoughts on AI is, but I asked ChatGPT to take the results and synthesize it and give me like kind of what it sees. And so we'll start with community and connection. Seems like there's a deep appreciation for the relationships, values, and spiritual grounding that is keeping people here. They do feel a perceived loss of energy and participation, particularly midweek and outside of liturgy, that see you throughout the week portion of Vox. A couple of quotes that ChatGPT found interesting was, I'm more looking for friendship and community than a leader. I want to spend more time with Vox folks. Some things that it offered that we're already doing and planning on doing is to create lower barrier ways to participate and gather, like such as these lunches, maybe some spontaneous hangouts, some happy hours, things that we've kind of done in the past. So we're excited to continue like seeing what you guys want and responding in kind. With liturgy and worship, liturgy is generally appreciated, especially the music and structure. Listen, I didn't put that part in there, but I did make sure it made it into the slideshow. Some people want more variety or ritual. Others want more space for silence and contemplation. Feedback suggests a divide between those who love the current emotional, introspective tone and those who miss a sense of joy, hope, or energy. Eucharist can be chaotic, often in a good way, but I wish I had some space to really think and breathe before the chaos starts. As a parent of the chaos, I've been like really thinking about this a lot since I saw this. So if you're the person, this was an anonymous survey, so if you're the person that said that and you have like a specific idea, let me know, because I'm just kind of racking my brain trying to think of some ways to like promote a little more silence, maybe a breath before my chaos joins the room. So yeah, and we also want to explore new ways to bring back that collective joy while still adding contemplative moments and space for silence and centering prayer. Next, homilies. We have a strong desire for deep, hold on. Why isn't it going back? There we go. Theological reflection that ties to scripture, justice, and personal stories. A few feel that the tone has grown heavy, political, or unclear, leaving them discouraged and unsure of what the core message is. Some quotes are, "I consistently leave Vox feeling like I just spent an hour on social media. I'm ready to get back to homilies that address the scripture readings in a way that is grounding and inspiring for spiritual growth." Some considerations that it had were to provide a mix of speakers with various voices and styles, which we already do. So cheers to us for that. And I think it's really great to hear what you guys are experiencing, because we want to make sure that we're doing the work of the people together and not just deciding what we think people want. So thank you guys very much for all of the honesty and your feedback. Volunteering and participation. Many feel joyful and connected through volunteering. Others feel burned out, underinformed, or overwhelmed. There were repeated calls for better scheduling, clear invitations, and flexible roles, especially for those less extroverted. One quote was, "I'm a designer and developer. I make stuff. I like designing systems. I don't necessarily like talking to people." Another one was, "Volunteering felt joyful, but I need a break." So yeah, we want to make sure that, like, as the staff and leadership, we're offering clear opt-in, opt-out moments, and we don't want anyone to feel burned out. We don't want them to feel like irritated that they're being a part of this. So feel free, if you want to say no, you can say no. More stuff from the survey: spiritual needs and hopes. There's a strong desire for spiritual formation, justice engagement, and creative expression. Requests for non-traditional forms of discipleship, including theological discussion, spiritual direction, and intergenerational experiences. Christopher is going to be talking about some ideas that we've had moving forward that I'm really excited about in this kind of world. More specific requests: more contemplation, more community events, more queer-affirming theology, more art and poetry. Wendell Berry for the win. And more opportunities to grieve, lament, and heal, and just be real with each other. So the final reflections: you guys love Vox, and you just want Vox to be a place where you feel at peace and at home. And I'm so thankful for all the words, whether they were like a little too stingy or whether they weren't stingy enough. Like, I appreciate hearing from you all, because it means a lot. It means that you're invested in this community. If you haven't had a chance to take the survey, you can just snap a pic of that QR code and, oh my goodness gracious. I blame my chaos. Okay, I don't know who's next, but thank you. I think it's Nick. Oh, the best part. I don't need a clap. I don't need a clap. But Nick does need a clap. Here you go. Good luck.
There you go. Thank you. All right, let me figure out how I can get my notes on here. Current and notes, that's the one. Great. Hello, everyone. I thought I would start by talking about privilege, namely the privilege that it has been to serve as your treasurer for 3 years and just being part of this community. I really love you all. This has been a very meaningful place for me and my family. Oh, gosh, it was a tough season of life when we started coming to Vox. And it was a very transformative and healing place. And just to do a little bit of the behind the scenes in some small way has been very meaningful. And in the future, if you ever get a nomination for NAV, I hope you accept. Because it's an interesting kind of work to be doing, and I really appreciate being part of it and everyone that I've been able to learn from and work with. And so that's my spiel. Thank you. Okay, finance time. I also will have graphs. I will go through just sort of recapping this year, and then we're going to talk about budget for next year, including kind of how we approached the setting up of the budget. There's only so much that I can do. We will have some Q&A at the end as usual, and incidentally, asking good questions is a great way to catch a nomination for stewardship committee or NAV in the future. Just ask Lindsay. So let's start with this year's giving. We started the year a little bit below average for what we were kind of expecting, but after communicating that, y'all really stepped up. As of now, or actually as of yesterday, this was our giving, $401,419.41, a lot of fours. This does include what has been contributed to the Slash the Gap campaign, although I understand there is still more that is pledged to it that hasn't come in quite yet. And like I said, this is through yesterday, so we have another 2 Sundays, I believe, in this month. I think this number will go up by the end of the year. I haven't necessarily tried to guess too much of that. Anyway, powering on. This was the graph I showed in the spring about kind of where we were tracking. And again, kind of like a kudos to everyone for showing like a nice sustained increase in our giving that year. Kind of extrapolated at the time, maybe we'll hit 400,000. The plan was to hit 365,000. So that's a nice bump. And indeed, so that's where we are today, 401. I do think we could get to 415 this year, just based on, I have to do deposits. I think there's checks in that box back there that I need to like get logged and take to the bank. So we'll end up a little better than 401. So great job. Okay, spending, 456,552. That's through the end of last month, so we're missing a month from that number. Our budget for the year was around, I believe it was 525,000. I think we'll end around 520. So a little bit under, which is good when you're talking spending. Right, so that's my kind of guess for the year. I think that's erring on the high side. And the breakdown of the spending. It's our usual shape. This is, again, not including August, so through July. Our largest expenses, wages and benefits, our facilities, including the mortgage, like we are sitting in it. And then I think for me, I'm going to break down these in a little bit more detail when we talk through the coming year budget. But the usual shape. As I'm extrapolating, this is kind of where I think we're going to end up for the year. Okay. This is the whole picture. This is the P&L. This is the giving. This is our against our expenses. And then I'm showing in blue our budget as what we planned for the year. So we can see giving is up from what we planned. Expenses may end up a little bit above. I guess a second ago I said below, but it may end up a little bit above. Like I said, this is kind of an extrapolation. We may yet come in under. The Vesper income, of course, pretty much on budget, and our net income, that's that deficit that we keep talking about. So the current view of things, and a bit of a, and again, this is with giving as of yesterday, this is our view. We are kind of closed some of that deficit gap with, I think, more to come. Make sense? Alrighty. Let's talk through the budget for this year. Spoiler alert, it will be another deficit year, so keep that in mind as we go through this. Tried really hard to get us back to break even. Didn't quite do it. And this is part of why. Projecting the giving this year, there's a bunch of ways to project giving, and my best graphs are in the giving projection. We're going with a number here of $380,000. Remember, for this year it was $365,000. We're going to end up maybe around $415,000. In a similar spirit, we're wanting to keep a relatively conservative estimate, just not to, I guess, to encourage the discipline in our budget of continuing to do as much as we can on not a ton of resources. So also, I think just kind of talking to people in the budgeting process and doing the kind of stick your finger in the air, I don't know that we feel like there will be more jobs a year from now in the world, or that things will be less expensive. And so having a conservative number like this is not necessarily a reflection on our attitude about like confidence in the Vox community, because I think, if anything, I've learned that this community is very generous and very committed. But I think it's prudent to recognize that there is some instability in the world right now. So we didn't want to, anyway, so that's where this number comes from, suffice to say. Okay, so this is me having realized that I could export CSVs from Planning Center. So here's 10 years of giving at Vox, which, if you can believe it, the implication there is I had been manually inputting previous graphs. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay, here's the other view that I like, which is kind of the cumulative view. The whites are current year, blues are recent years, grays are ancient history. You know, I look at the numbers in a lot of different ways when we're trying to come up with these giving estimates, and this is like 50% of our year's giving would fall between those blue lines, right? The white line is our median year. It kind of gives us a sense of like what would be unusually high or what would be unusually low. This is our kind of formula for the year, which is to take this year's giving, fiscal year 25, and subtract 10%. Again, not a reflection on anyone's commitment to the community, but just like things might get a little rough. We'll see. That gives us to a number at the end of the year of $381,024, but we're going to round that off to $380 to work with that. So I could tell other stories with other lines, and in my budget letter I mentioned, like, if the current trends do hold, then we'll actually probably beat this. And I would like to see us beat this, because I don't want us to operate in a deficit. Nobody wants that. I'll talk more about deficit in a little while. But this is what we're going to work with to plan the rest of the budget to come. Okay, projecting our expenses, $463,738. This is actually a pretty decent chunk of a reduction from fiscal year 25, around $57,000. Most of that is, wage salary rolling off. You also have seen that wages is our biggest category, right? So that was a pretty meaningful reduction in expenses. And we've had some increases in other areas that I can get into, but that's the story that we've got. There's not a whole lot of levers to pull at Vox, other than kind of the staff, the building. We'll break those down in a minute. So here's again the shape of that budget, with wages on the top. And now that I can see the personnel category, this includes some extra HR projects that we'll be working through this year. That was one of the additions to our expenses this last year, is a little more formal HR engagements. Now that I can see that bar, I decided it needs to be pink. So there we go, personnel in pink. I can't do a presentation without a new kind of graph. Ooh, this is called a Sankey diagram. Not a slinky. This feels very slinky though, doesn't it? A Sankey diagram. I just like seeing the proportion of this stuff. And honestly, we kind of, wages looks big, right? I think it's not that big. I think we actually should be paying our people more. And it is actually kind of a reflection of the staff's commitment to Vox that we are keeping wages flat in this budget relative to last year. So let's keep that in mind as a community. But I also think it just goes to show how much gets done on a relative shoestring with that ministry category in particular. Our ministry category here is about 10% of our giving, and particularly in shaping this year's budget, we're wanting to very much commit to that and maintaining, like, so if and as we do beat the giving estimates here, I think we will be committed to increasing like our ministry spending. Although again, obviously, by how much we might beat that gives us other capabilities as a community. So anyway, I just liked seeing some of the proportionality of what gets done here. Yeah, okay. Vesper. This is a place. We get some rental income out of it. We have Inside Books Project pays rent, and we do have occasionally other kinds of paid events. This is our just projection of sort of net income that we might see from the Vesper rental activities. We're around $20,000 for this year, so this is a slight increase. So good luck. I think that's Brandon. If we have ideas about how to use the space, or not even ideas, like the team is super creative. I'm sure they have a bunch of ideas. If you just like have some time and want to give some labor to things like opening up the building and closing down the building, or marketing the space, right? Like sharing about it in circles that you're in. I don't know. I'm improvising at this point, but I think this is a great resource that we have and helps a lot in offsetting the operating deficits. So this leads us to the number for this year for a planned deficit. So that was $380,000 of giving. It's $463 of expenses. Then offset that by 25 or so from Vesper's income, gets us this figure. This is progress. I mean, last year or this year's, I'm like right on the edge of the year, right? So was it last year or this year? In fiscal year 25, our planned deficit was 125,000, and is currently around 100. Again, I think we'll close that gap a little bit more through the end of the week. And if you want more precision on how much the deficit is because you feel moved to like write a check of that amount, just email me in 2 weeks and I'll let you know. I'll just give you a full, fresh report. So yeah, this is a thing. It's progress. It's not a deal breaker. And this is where I'm going to go into some talking about how we pay attention to a deficit while we're in a deficit. It is not great. It's not we plan for this because we want it to happen. Like, I don't want you to mistake me as like, we should lose. I mean, we are a nonprofit. That doesn't necessarily mean we should lose money. So let's do some deficit math. Let me contextualize what I mean by all that. So right now, we have unrestricted reserves of $211,821. If we have this planned deficit of $57,938, we look at the reserves relative to that. Just divide the one by the other. This is how many years can we operate with this amount of deficit, and that's our runway, 3.5 years. This is what I mean by, like, this is progress compared to earlier in the year. We were like 2 years of runway. Below 3, I start to get very nervous. So we also need to look at operating reserves as well. And operating reserves is basically something catastrophic happens. How many months of operating expenses can we pay with zero income? And I'm not saying like there's been an exodus. Maybe, I don't know, Visa and MasterCard stop taking contributions. I don't know. Like, it's a good healthy amount to be closer to 6 months. 3 to 6 months is kind of the window you want that in. We're currently looking at like a 5.4 months of operating reserves. Okay, I'm gonna call that one green for now, because if we do have a year where we have a $57,000 deficit, then we look at the next year. Then our reserves are more like 150,000. And the operating reserves go down to 3.8 months. Still like above the 3, but a little uncomfortable. Runway is down to 3 years in this figure. I'm kind of guesstimating maybe we'll have a little less planned deficit. We could white knuckle through a year like this, I think, if we had to, if we really felt like it. But if we did, this would be a hypothetical fiscal year 2028. And this is where I would suggest we would actually have to start making some, like, this is hard decisions territory. Because to get that back up over 2.5 months, like, I don't think I would be able to recommend a budget that did this, right? And I don't expect Lindsay would, certainly, because she's the one that was like, you need to harp on operating reserves here, because don't leave me with these expectations that it's all fine and dandy. If we were trying to get that at 3 months, those expenses have to go down. And in this is like all hypothetical, it's just me working out some math, not trying to doom and gloom, but that's a $60,000 a year reduction in the budget. And there's not a lot of categories where we have $60,000 a year. So, like I said, it's hard decision territory. I played this out a couple of years. This is just not trying to doom and gloom. This is just us doing our diligence. These are the kinds of things that we pay attention to when we're talking about how we manage a deficit. It is by no means like an endorsement of a deficit. This is the situation we're in. We're going to continue to make the investments and the expenses that we do because we believe in the work that we're doing. And yeah, incidentally, these numbers would also imply a giving levels of like $340,000 or $350,000, which is well below that would be like on the unusual side of low relative to some of the other like giving years and trends that we've seen as well. So I don't think we're headed for this. I just wanted to let you know like what kind of work goes on in the background when we're thinking about how we manage deficits. Okay, let me bring this home by just going through the state of our various funds. This is the part where I just read numbers off a table. No, not really. The themes here being, we are spending from our unrestricted funds, having had a deficit this year. But also look up a line from that. We've done a great job mobilizing the Creative Ministry Fund. And this is this was a real nice windfall for our community. This exists to be used to do and to develop our ability to do ministry where we would otherwise lack like a normal operating budget. So we don't use these funds for our operating budget because that was kind of a one-time thing. We don't expect that to happen, and we don't want to like hire someone out of that and then have to like, well, they're gone, we're gonna fire you. Like we want to be able to engage in an operating budget that is sustainable relative to our giving. But part of the job that we then have is how to mobilize those funds. So we're continuing to get better at that. There was a lot of work during my term to just flesh out like, cool, what does that look like? How do we create good systems that are thoughtful, that allow others to kind of come in and meaningfully participate in that? And y'all are doing that, and respect. Do more, yeah. Yeah, so here's just the graph form of those numbers. Great. Okay, yeah, so this year we've utilized $70,840, I think. I think I remember to update that number. That might be the April number, I'm sorry. I don't remember. And just a few of those, like, we had a whole bunch of slides for these back in April. I thought I'd recap a few of the big ticket items, so. Awesome. Oh yeah, new website coming soon. Okay, so Q&A time? Yeah? Okay, there's a request. Uh-huh. We're gonna get an update on the Close the Gap campaign, and then maybe you wanna hang out with me to do some of the Q&A. What do you say? No, I'm making it happen.
Well, and just to be clear, I didn't realize I was providing an update on the Slash the Gap. That's okay. I was like, I have not looked at Giving Center since like 2 or 3 days ago. So as of 2 or 3 days ago, since that is now my mandate. Oh, as of right now. Okay. For those of you who have not heard about Slash the Gap, which hopefully everyone has at this point, we are trying to cut into our deficit as much as we can. Before the end of July, our deficit was at around $70,000. That has since jumped up, and the reason for the jump is because our payroll runs once a month at the very end of the month, we run our accounting on what's called a cash basis, which means like we look at what is actually in the bank, not what we have like pledged to spend or what we're committed to spending. And so that, like that huge, all the payroll deductions, which as you see from Nick's presentation are the largest part of our budget, hit at the very beginning of the month and they're deducted at the very end of the month. So anyway, oh no, and I talked too long and now it's gone. Okay. So our progress towards the goal, we are at about $12,565 so far. As you will recall, yeah, woo! And we're only like a little more than halfway through the month, so we've got plenty of time. And as you will remember, we had a couple of donors pledge $5,000 in matching gifts, and so one of those is reflected here because we're at $12,656. One of those is not. So if we can get to $15,000, we will get another $5,000 on top of that and be at $20,000. So this is not intended like to make, I know Vox is not great about asking for money, and by and large, that's a really wonderful thing, right? That is not a primary driver of our community. Having said that, giving is down nationwide and globally because of, economic uncertainty, philanthropic giving in grants has come down. Obviously, like many, many, many organizations and people around the world that depend on federal dollars are either losing jobs or organizations are closing or cutting significantly. And so sort of as Nick mentioned, we are being conservative because things are just really uncertain right now. So this is not intended to stretch you farther than either you can or that really brings you joy. But for those of us that are deeply committed to Vox and Vox 4.0 and its next phase of life, we would really ask that you help us come to Slash the Gap as much as possible, because as we round out like the next fiscal year, if we end up at a negative 57.9 deficit, we're going to be talking about, we want this community to survive for years and years to come. And so we really want to be mindful of balancing, serving as best we can with the resources that we have and also sustaining the community for years to come. So happy to answer any questions, but I will pass it back for you to lead the Q&A, but I'm happy to stay up.
Here, I'll take that.
All right, questions?
Thoughts, questions? Mechanically, how do we know that it's going to Slash the Gap when we're giving? There's a menu to choose? Yeah, there's a menu. But honestly, if it goes into the general funds too, that's fine. No, not fine. Okay, here. The correct answer is over here.
Yeah, there's a drop down. And so we really do, the reason why we would ask if you are making an additional donation over and above your normal monthly giving, we do sort of want to get a sense of like what is general giving and what is Slash the Gap, because obviously if we're just like taking an egg out of one basket and putting it into another, that's not going to get us where, we'd like to go. Sorry, Nick.
No, great. Clearly, I'm just phoning it in at this point. Here, microphone.
That says like Vox General, and then Slash the Gap. It's in the same, yeah. Okay, I'll pull the app up. Hang on. So give. So, okay, so you have to put in the yeah. So drop from Vox General to Slash the Gap fundraiser. Yes, after you enter the amount.
Do we have a crypto wallet? We do not.
We do not have a crypto wallet, but one of my goals for this year is for us to have, us to develop a comprehensive financial policy, which is something that we don't currently have, and often financial policies will have something called a gift policy. So if you're interested in helping with that, because I am very unfamiliar with cryptocurrency. He's like, no, I'm not interested, but thank you. Yeah, we don't have a crypto wallet, unfortunately. Yeah, and you said you had a second question? Allie, I see you. Yeah. Yeah, I've got like extra. Yeah. 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 There's like a whole world, of non-traditional gifts that I think we can explore. I will tell you, like, putting that stuff together is quite a lift. Like, putting the policy and the infrastructure together, and I would love to make it a long-term goal, but I'm not sure it's, like, coming soon. Yeah. Yes, Allie. Oh, yeah.
Almost. I have to thank you all for your patience with me. We have recently opened a high yield savings account. Now that we've got like the budget locked down, we've got a good sense of how and when, and we're mobilizing the Creative Ministry Fund. We are going to be transferring a substantial amount of money into a good high yield savings account, not just for the high yield savings, but it's also going to be a sweep account that puts it across other institutions to increase our FDIC insurance coverage of the funds. So that is coming soon. And so next year's slides may have a line for interest income. So stand by. I'm not trying to commit you to anything. Yeah. Justin again? I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a startup of a church. We're not coming from any kind of other denomination where we're getting financial support. This is all us. Do they have a grants program? Is anyone sitting on that kind of an endowment we could talk about? Yeah, this is bootstrap vibes here. So no cheat code that I'm aware of. Olivia. Vibes question. Well, I guess we'll both give an answer, and you can average between us. Uh, when I started as a treasurer, we had just come off a few years of surplus, and that was great. I recommend serving as treasurer during surplus. Um, uh, I mean, I don't know if this is a cop-out answer. I'm just concerned about like what's gonna happen with our community in the coming years. Like, I hear the prayers of the people. I hear people losing funding and grants and jobs, and like, that's what I worry about. I am very interested in how we can mobilize ourselves as a community to just give a lot more mutual aid to each other. We had a lot of use of the Good Neighbor Fund this year, and kudos, because that was one of my first lectures to this group, was like, hey, this is here, let's mobilize it, and it really has been. So that's my concern, and the sustainability side. I mean, I've given the deficit math slides. I think there are always things that we could do. I mean, if we talk about the building, right? Is this meeting the needs of the ministry that we do? Should we go back to Space 12? I don't know. Or similar, right? Like, we can make those decisions. We have this is this room. Look around. Like, we will make those decisions, and I have a lot of trust in this community. So I don't know. That's my answer.
So, as I sort of mentioned, and I'm sure everybody knows, like, probably 95% of nonprofit organizations and Vox falls in are in deficit years, right? Like, just sort of globally. And so, like, those happen. You're never going to be in a surplus every year. Like, that's just not going to happen. And so it's one of those things where, like, there are benchmark rainy day, right? That 3 to 6 month categories, those rainy day funds, your operating reserves, and we have them. And right now they're at a healthy level. It is currently raining, right? So, like, you have a rainy day fund and it's raining. And so then the question is, like, for how long can you sustain the rain? I think we are generally in, like, I'm not, like, jumping to be like, oh my gosh, we have to make like $100,000 worth of cuts right now. But I think that if we sustain a $58,000 deficit next year, I think next year we will be talking about, like, we can't keep burning at this rate, right? Like, with $211,000 in reserves, we can't lose $60,000 a year for too many years, right? Or 120 or 100, like, and so then I think we're going to be looking at what can we do. Having said all of that, again, our giving level is predicted low this year. So my hope is that we bust through that. So, like, we're kind of being a little bit, I want to say conservative and not pessimistic, but, like, just sort of knowing all of the things that are going on in the world. So, like, yes, we're concerned going into another fairly large deficit, but yes, it's much smaller than the planned deficit for this year. And the hope is that, we bust through it. And I think this is a year, sort of more existentially, as Nick mentioned, like, I think this is a year of rebirth for our community. And my hope is that a year from now, like, the flower's gonna start to bloom in so many ways, and this would just fall into that category. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very, woo! Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah. Do you know the answer to that?
I just learned about downloading the CSVs, so I mean, part of why I don't have an immediate answer to that is that attitude of not asking, not talking about money a lot, not kind of putting that burden on the community. I guess I would say that burden is shared within a rather smaller circle within our community, and that includes sometimes this folks. So we don't do a lot of, shall we say, data science on the giving trends, certainly at like an individual level, just kind of out of a sense of privacy. We could compare to various other kinds of trends. I think Lindsay has great access to data from her experience around working with other kinds of nonprofits. So I think we may start doing, because you're not the first person to ask that question. It's like, well, how does this compare to previous years and other? It is like a marketing, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the data science piece is important. I want to go back to the questions about like, what about the people in the room, and what about the people not even in the room who like support, you know, certain types of Christian churches or you know. I think we have like my sense, and I don't want to speak for Vox, but I have a feeling that like the general consensus is in line. On the one hand, I hold like we need to be more transparent about financial stuff, and we need to just ask. I know that like my first hearing about this was in October, and I was like, oh, okay, like we can help, you know. And I think that there are a number of folks that feel that same way. Having said that, I think first, like the general focus needs to be like, how do we build community, or how do we rebuild community after a very, very hard season? And so when you start talking about like people who come and aren't covenant members, like I want to be really, really careful with our intentions. Like, of course, I would love that all of those folks like donate a bunch of money or become covenant members, but like I think it's like we want to be clear-eyed on the fact that we want this community to be a completely safe space, and that the investment, the primary investors financially in this community are those who have promised, who have covenanted, if that's even a word, to be members of this community. And so I think that there need to be conversations about that, but I definitely don't think that our game plan, like our marketing plan, should be like, ask your mom, you know, like, because I think that puts us in a spot that we just don't want to be in. Yes, Naomi. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. If you ask anyone on the stewardship committee, I don't think you're going to have that issue with me as your treasurer. You're going to get overshare. Yes, Justin. Yeah, and I think a big part of the reason that we didn't see, so the last time Vox, from my understanding, did a huge fundraiser was for the building. Um, since then, we have been in a surplus. And so it's also been out of like, we've been living in a different world, right, than we're living in right now. And so some of it is that like there wasn't actually really a need. Like, sure, it would have been like a little extra money in the padding, but because we had a building fund, you know what I mean, like a flush building fund and things like that, it's been a little bit different. I think you're right. Like the whole transparency conversation absolutely needs to happen, and I think it will. Outside of this room, I think we want to be very intentional about doing that well, especially since there's been a lot of disruption, you know, with departures and things like that, and also because it's just like existentially a very challenging time. Yes, Allie.
So make it a little more concrete for folks. Like maybe it's a little too abstract when we're saying, you know, here's. We could come up with a framing for that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have some of those numbers right now, which is, say we have 100,000 of a deficit this year. We're trying to raise 35 to close a gap of that, but the real number is 100. Any average month, we have between 70 and 80, usually closer to 70 givers in the community. So take 100,000 divided by 70, be an extra $1,500 each over the course of a year, right? So you take that over 12, it's like $100, $120 a year. That can be a substantial lift for a lot of folks. A lot of folks, $100 a month is probably, you know, the halfway point on average giving. I have done some of the data science this year. I didn't completely answer that question earlier, but $100 a month is about the midway point of giving. So half of donations would be like that amount or less. But half of our donations are that amount or more in a given month. So you would maybe want to, this is the sort of thing where it's difficult to, how do you come up with a more progressive giving scheme here, right? Like, so there's the sustainable part of that. But I appreciate the ask, which I'm hearing. And generally, and to maybe try to put a bow on the discussion section so we can move on to some other slides, hearing some more appetite for more transparency, hearing some recognition for like we are in kind of a new season as a community, but also financially, and maybe breaking down kind of like giving people a sense of a more individual scale of the need rather than this kind of like all together lump sum approach, which I've been doing so far, is super useful feedback. Incidentally, like we also don't want to necessarily overcorrect too. So if anyone's sitting out there right now feeling like, oh, this is giving me the ick relative to Vox's values of kind of safety and whatever, like, but please feel free to send an email to myself, treasurer at Vox Vanier, or to leadership at Vox Vanier, just to like, I do think there is some appetite within the current and incoming NAV for a little bit more of that like functional transparency, and I think as a community we may see ourselves going a little bit more in that direction. So yeah, you got to be my last one though. Yeah. Do you know?
I think it was like 1,600. Well, it was like 8, and then I think Creative Nation.
It's like a low four figures type number, I would say. Less than 10,000, less than 5,000 probably. Right. Oh, sure, yeah, this is not going to Vox per se. Yeah. All right, thank you all for the the laughs and the graphs. Who's next? Right. I'm next. Okay, so the affirmation for our budget is that last step here. We'd like to give this until Wednesday if you want to read through the letter again. And I believe I'll be sending out a more detailed breakdown. We'll see. I'm sending something to someone. I need a break. I need a nap. But yeah, there's the QR code to register your position on the coming budget.
This link will probably be sent out, right? This link will probably be sent out in the notes following up.
Yeah, if we're going to Wednesday, I don't know if the notes are going to get sent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I could just do a real quick, like, send this out with nothing else. Like, here's the link if you missed the meeting this afternoon, but I won't have that stuff.
Did it go out already? Did this go out like with the budget already? No. Okay. Okay. Well, just take a picture of it now to be safe.
But yeah, I can still send a quick email.
Sorry, I didn't mean to drop that on you. I was just thinking, yeah. And okay, and I'll pass it off to you to talk about the theology stuff. Okay. Hi. In a meeting recently, as a staff, we were talking about and kind of dreaming what we're excited about in the coming months at Vox, and we just thought that'd be a nice palate cleanser. So just wanted to give some just exciting things. Okay, so the first thing that I'm excited about, the most excited about, is our fall retreat. We're going to Camp Buckner. I think it's going to be great. It's a little closer. It's just sweet. It's a sweet property. I had never been there before. I went and toured it recently, and I'm really excited. And it's all included. All the meals are included. They have a really nice staff, and they feed us. Everything is very contained. I think it'll be really connecting. I think last year a lot of the feedback was around just how kind of spread out everybody felt, and this is much more contained. It's going to be really restful. It's closer. I think it's going to be really nice. We're going to have like a little fishing competition, and there may or may not be some mud games. One of their features is they have a like mud stadium, y'all. So they like spray down this dirt, and they are like have all these options for mud games. So I'm pitching really hard. I'm the minority in staff about being excited about that, but I also have 3 boys. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And then this is kind of some photos of the facility. The cabins are really, really nice. Really nice cabins. And that's where we're going to have liturgy on Sunday that morning. So it's going to be great. And then this is a little sneaky peek at the website that a former Voxer, Sam Fagan, is building for us. It's very not done, but just like you can kind of get a feel for what it looks like. It's really nice. It's coming together. We've been working really hard on it, so wanted to show you that. And then we've just got some good events coming up. We have the Vox Community Volunteer Night. Feel really excited about that. Our partnership. Oh, did I get that wrong? It's supposed to be September 4th. I thought it was. Is that what we said? Did I tell the partnerships team the wrong day? Let me follow up on that. We have a volunteer kickoff on the 14th. We've got a midweek group connection night coming up. Got a baby dedication. Just some real sweet. And then our like normal Advent rhythms, our potluck, things like that. We're just feeling real excited about some of the things that are ahead. Yes, Allie? August 30th? That maybe was wrong. What? Oh, yes. The children's, the Vox, yes. We also have, our Voxlings are getting together on, didn't make it on here, sorry, on the 30th of this month to put together some bags for Hungry Hill. So one of the things that's also really exciting is we're starting to form a partnership with a really amazing organization called Hungry Hill, and they are right down the road on East 12th, and they are like doing such incredible things. They have a work program. They work with the unhoused in the community. They have incredible relationships with other nonprofits. So they are so excited to partner with us, and kind of we're dreaming of like how they can use our space for different events. They are super, super plugged in. And so one of the things that they said that they can always use are just bags, because they do a lot of outreach. They take the vans all over town. They know all the different communities where people gather and sleep all over town, and they love to hand out supplies. So the parents decided for the kids, that the kids need to be the ones to put these go bags together. So we're gonna do that on the 30th, and so if you have kids, or if you just wanna come, or if you wanna donate supplies, like overnight supplies, toothbrushes, soaps, things like that, that would be amazing. But excited to do that. And Christopher is gonna talk about another wonderful opportunity for connection.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, one other event that I'll talk about in a second after I have you corporately lament with me. I had created 3 slides that I was really, really excited about, and as sometimes happens in our Dropbox, they just disappeared. So I'm grieving because also I didn't really take notes. I was just going to be reading from these wonderful slides that I had created to tell you about what we have been talking about collectively as a staff, and some with NAV about in terms of the focus for our Vision series, which we're scheduling right now to begin on October the 1st, or not the 1st, whatever the first Sunday of October. See, I would know the date if I had my slide. But, and it is kind of acknowledging a lot of what's already been said in this room, both in terms of we've all probably found ourselves here at Vox because we've experienced a faith that at sometimes felt either like, oh, spirituality is manipulative, or spirituality is posturing something, but is actually something else, or we've had all the kinds of different ways that church can traumatize us. Probably if I could go around and say, show me a hand, we'd have every hand raised by the end of going through that list of things. And we're all realizing, and I think wanting and hungering, we're here still, other people are not, because there is still something compelling about the way of Jesus. There is still something beautiful about his life, his death, his resurrection. Eric, thank you for reminding us of both the cross and the resurrection in your message today. That brings us together, and we want to talk about, and the working title for the series is all about reconstructing rhythms. What does it look like to take parts of our faith that perhaps, even as we were talking about with giving earlier in this conversation, like, we don't necessarily want to be the people that, like, if someone new shows up, we feel like we're saying, hey, do you know if you gave 5% more than you're currently giving, we could. And yet we acknowledge, like, hey, we believe we're a force for God's goodness in the world and in our community, and if we want to continue to be that we're going to have to find ways to, like, talk about giving, and to do that with transparency, and to do that without manipulation, but also to do that with integrity and honesty, and saying, like, hey, will you partner with us? Whether it's scripture, whether it's prayer, whether it's many of the practices that in previous seasons of Vox Life we have talked about and perhaps have not talked about in a long time, we want to look at what it looks like to reclaim those, to explore where we feel the tension, and perhaps to collectively try to work through, hey, is that a tension we're going to be able to resolve? Or perhaps it's one of those paradoxes that we have to just keep walking with and in the faith just this morning I was on Instagram, and there's a pastor out of Atlanta who does a lot of work around deconstructing, and he posted a video of him. He's in the Black church tradition, and so in the Black church tradition, it's very common for pastors to sing like all the time. And so he posted this video of like a younger version of himself, like just singing the heck out of this gospel song. And he tagged, he said, I know all of y'all think I'm a heretic because of my deconstruction. He's like, but I still sing this song like on a weekly basis, like in my life. Like it still has a deep part of my heart. And I think there are probably things along the way that we have set down because it has felt like it has too much of the vibes or the odor of a type of faith that was too constrictive or demanding or performative, that perhaps we can be invited to say, hey, was there some goodness in the practice? Maybe not in the way I learned it, or maybe not in the mindset those people had around me that were asking me about it, that I can reclaim. Something Vox has done in a previous season of life that gets to the rhythms part of it is we have looked at rhythms of life. It's what in some of the ancient Christian tradition, the religious orders, covenants, the monastics have called the rule of life, which is a communal agreement around these are things that we want to be attending to so that we can be formed in the way of Jesus together. At Vox, that's not prescriptive in the sense, like it's not like I've been telling people, it's not like you say, hey, you look really healthy. What are your medications? Because I want to take all the same medications that you're on, right? Because like then that's going to be bad for you. But you could learn to say, hey, you look really healthy. What are some of the natural things everyone's doing that you're doing? I want to take on some of those things. And so we're going to also be looking at a rhythm of life and what it looks like in the areas of our personal life, our communally shared life, and in the larger society that we want to be a part of. What are some practices we might want to adopt and talk about that, and even inviting some of our midweek groups to have that conversation in October and November. So we're really excited about this. We'd have been even more excited if I had my awesome slides. But along with that, you know that last fall we had a theology night, and one of the events we're still searching, I think, for the precise date on, but that we are wanting to have is a Reconstructing Theology, BYOB, which is BYOB in two sense. It is the BYOB, like bring your own booze, but it is also the bring your own Bible, because we are genuinely trying to think like, what does it look like to like take something that perhaps we've let go of and look at it with new eyes. So keep on the lookout for that. Now, finally, I think the last thing we have is your favorite pastor and mine, Pastor Vanessa, is going to close us out. And I think also has one more thing we need to get some feedback for you before we do.
Thank you. It seems so silly to have a microphone with, this group. Okay, so Christmas Eve, question mark. I get to do the fun job of doing an informal poll. So this year, Christmas Eve, like the 24th, is on a Wednesday, which is like a prime location for a Christmas Eve service. However, we typically at Vox do a Christmas Eve service because a lot of y'all like to go out of town on Christmas Eve. And so this year, that's on a Tuesday. So informal poll, you can have Tuesday the 23rd, Christmas Eve, or the 24th, which is on a Wednesday, Christmas Eve. Yes? The Vox musical that you're starring in? Huh? That I'm leading. I'm not sure yet. That's not on the calendar yet. Huh? Yeah, it'll be a Sunday. It wouldn't be on one of those days. Okay, so if you would like the 23rd, the Tuesday, Christmas Eve, raise your hand now. And plan to attend, yes. Thank you, okay, all right, hands down. If you would like Christmas Eve, Wednesday, the 24th, raise your hand. Okay, Christmas Eve it is. Parker, you can come by yourself on the 24th. We'll light a candle for you, your own special Advent candle. All right, I'm going to close us off. I just am continually excited to be here with y'all. this is a special place, and it's special because I like your faces, especially Charlotte's. She's my buddy. Okay. Thank you all. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Have a wonderful week. Goodbye.